I'm a big sushi fan. Nigiri, maki, sashimi, you name it, I'll eat it. I've even learned how to make sushi at home, which means buying specialty rice that's stickier and a bit sweeter than white rice. Pass the soy sauce, please. Rice is a staple food for families all over the world, not just for sushi lovers like me. You may be surprised to learn that the U.S. is a major producer of rice. We plant around 3.5 million acres of rice a year. Half our rice is exported, but we also import a lot of rice, a good amount being specialty rices like jasmine and basmati.
I'm interested in specialty rices because a specialty rice brings in a unique market, a new way to sell U.S. rice. So it's a way to help the U.S. rice industry by reaching a new set of consumers. So if we can reach these new consumers, we can sell more rice.
That's Dr. Shannon Pinson, a research geneticist at the Dale Bumpers National Rice Research Center in Stuttgart, Arkansas. Here in Arkansas, where about half the rice is grown in the U.S., Pinson has been working on improving and enhancing specialty rice varieties, including colorful red and purple rice. She's noticed a bigger demand for colorful rices after seeing an uptick in brown rice. Brown rice has become so popular that many consumers consider it a typical rice.
I love the fact that you call brown rice typical, even, to be honest with you, because brown rice really took off in 2008. So I think it's a fairly new thing for people to eat brown rice in the U.S. It was a niche market for a while. It has made it to the standard grocery store. That's exciting.
Brown rice has become more popular because it's more nutrient dense than white rice. Brown rice is a whole grain, while white rice is milled. Brown rice also has a distinct earthy flavor that makes it heartier than white rice.
In the early 2000s, there was a growing interest in eating unmilled rice, the brown rice, as we call them. Until we knew that the consumer was willing to eat that brand, we did not have a really high interest in developing brands that had premium qualities. Then in 2008, rice was declared to be a whole grain, and that we could put the whole grain logo onto rice packages. And that just opened a lot of thinking about how do we then improve that brand even further with nutritional content or other niche market premium values. And so that did open the market for us to think about colored brands.
Colored rices are relatively new here in the U.S., but they've been part of folklore in China for centuries. In fact, in China, purple rice was known as the emperor's rice because it was so revered that lore said only the emperor could eat it. In part, its reputation was due to its nutrient content. The Chinese viewed it as beneficial for pregnant women and the sick.
In China, they were actually conserving their colored brand rices and feeding them specifically for their pregnant ladies because they were considered highly valuable. We take folic acid, vitamins and things in the U.S., but there they were eating purple rices because of the contents and the benefits that they perceived from that. So we were aware that the rest of the world was valuing colored brand rices, and we began researching that in the U.S.
Growing, harvesting, and processing colored rice can be vastly different than white rice. It takes specialty equipment and different inputs. Some rice farmers are also hesitant because they relate colored rice to weeds.
We had a speed bump created in the U.S. by the fact that there's a weedy rice out there that the farmers have to deal with that steals the yield out of their standard table rice, and that weedy rice happens to be known as red rice. So there are farmers in the U.S. that are very just mentally against colored brand because that indicates to them this weedy problem. And it's a problem in the mills because if they were to get a little bit of this weedy red bran into the truck that went to the mill, and the mill then parboils it, it turns this whole batch of parboiled rice pink, and it's not marketable.
Instead of being picked up by the large rice-producing farms, smaller farmers started growing red and purple rice as more of a niche product with a high market value. Pinson noted that with red and purple rice, they could charge 5 times, maybe more, than for standard white rice.
They can make a lot more per pound of rice if they can capture this market that's willing to pay a premium price for the colored brand rices. And the rice does not even have to produce as much per acre to make a profit. There's a definite market out there willing to pay high value for it.
The market comes from consumers not only wanting specialty rices, but also foods that are more nutritious. Colored rice is nutrient dense, with more magnesium, potassium, and calcium than white rice. There's also more fiber, like 4 times more fiber, which makes it more appealing to diabetics. Pinson explains the science behind that.
And when you get that increased fiber along with your carbohydrates, the fiber reduces the digestion rate of the carbohydrates. You lower the glycemic index of the rice. So when people become diabetic, one of the first things a nutritionist will recommend is they switch from white rice to brown rice, because just eating that bran along with the carbohydrates inside the rice makes it more amenable to a stable blood sugar rate, because it slows the digestion process of the starches that are still there. So yeah, there's a lot of benefit to eating the brown rice. And of course, purple rice has those same benefits plus more. Purple and red rice also have compounds known as antioxidants. If you can take in more antioxidants, you can reduce the inflammation and problems that are associated with diabetes and the organ injuries that happen from the diabetes. If you can decrease that inflammation by eating antioxidants, you're healthier.
Interestingly, the color of the red and purple rice comes from their antioxidant compounds. When we think of antioxidants, we typically think of berries, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, because their color is derived by the amount of antioxidant compounds in them. The darker the color, the more the antioxidants. Same thing with colored rice. But what if you combined red and purple rice? Would you then have a super rice?
We are in the process of creating rice that has both purple and red. We found that when we produce both the anthocyanins and the tannins in the same rice, you actually increase the content of both of them. So you can get even higher antioxidant content when you put both in the same rice. And that surprised us actually, because the two compounds, they actually share a biosynthetic pathway. For many, many steps, they share compounds and then they branch off. And we had originally hypothesized that because of that, they would be competing for that point where they branch apart, but it turns out that when we turn on the gene to produce more anthocyanins, we can get more tannins, not less. So apparently these genes that turn on the anthocyanin also boost the flux through the shared pathway. And the same thing for the tannin genes. When we turn on the tannin production genes, we can get more anthocyanins. So we have found that when we put the red and the purple together, we can get even higher antioxidant activity in the rice.
A healthier rice with a unique flavor and hardiness? Sign me up. But how does it taste? Well, I decided to try it myself. Similar to brown rice, you have to cook it longer than white rice, and you have to use more water in the rice cooker. It's certainly heartier than white rice, so I would eat it with grilled chicken and steak and mushrooms rather than a lighter dish such as salmon. But it also works well in a bowl with sautéed vegetables and something nutty like sunflower seeds. The taste is similar to brown rice, but the color really pops, especially the red rice. The purple rice is very dark, almost like a black rice. So if you want to add some color to your meal, either of these varieties are a good choice. Back to the science. Pinson said she's currently working on ways to make rice even healthier, including getting more potassium in rice.
FDA has, in the last 3 years, changed the labels on food products. They require now potassium as a percent of the daily recommended content to be included on food labels, because their research showed that U.S. diets were often deficient in potassium. So we are working on how do we get potassium increased in rice. So I'm working on how do we increase the potassium in rice. And it turns out that as we increase potassium, we also increase magnesium and phosphorus. So those three elements, when we increase one, we increase the other, and that's just benefit plus benefit plus benefit.
Perhaps it won't be long before they start using these healthier rice varieties in sushi. I'll get the wasabi. Join our next episode where we learn some fun and interesting facts about grains.